sub-2 investing, right? I think it's a perfect strategy to actually use in the upcoming correction per se, right? If you have this different tool in your tool belt, obviously you'll be able to close on more properties. There's other investors talking about it, making it popular, but ultimately we've been doing this for a very long time. Well, I say about 4 years now. One of our first deals was actually subject to foreclosure that we actually took down. And one of the best things about it, we actually wrapped that particular property. So what I want to do is talk to you today about wraps and ultimately what they are. I know we hear a lot about it. There's real estate investors that are essentially wrappers. They call them 25 cents, right? But with that being said, ultimately we want to make sure that you know exactly what's happening, how to use it, when to use it. And ultimately you can build your wealth without actually fixing toilets and tenants, right? It's an easier way to build wealth. Literally money comes into the bank account every month from a wrap or wraps that we do. And all we have to do is collect the check and pay the mortgage, right? That's as hard as it is. The taxes, everything is already escrowed into the payment. So let me break this down to you and let me show you exactly what's a good wrap, what's a bad wrap, what we should use as a rental, what we should go ahead and owner finance. Just allow you to know the two. That way, when you use the subject to, you know exactly which way to actually use it and ultimately go out there and make money. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Jordan Aubrey, a real estate investor. Been investing in real estate for about 4 years, full-time about 2.5. But ultimately, this is a real estate investing YouTube channel where we talk about all things real estate investing, personal finance, money, things, anything that makes your life a little bit better from a financial standpoint. That's what we want to address and cover. Without further ado, let's get right to it. So welcome in YouTube. This right here is an example of which properties we want to keep as far as an owner finance perspective, which ones we want to do as far as a rental perspective. Obviously these numbers are going to be changing to keep things easy. The ARV for both properties are going to be 200,000, which is the easiest way to do things, right? Some factors are going to be changing up. We got a property that reinstatement is $6 grand, right? Reinstatement is essentially just us putting money back into the property, that's $6 grand. And then we got a reinstatement over here, 15 grand, right? Two totally different numbers can sway a good property or a bad property, right? Same thing over here as far as rehab, 10K. Rehab is going to be identical, 10K. Both properties need 10 grand. This particular area is appreciating. This particular area is not really appreciating, right? They're going up as far as the national average at 3%, but this right here, you're looking at probably about 10% a year. This one right here, you're looking at about 3% a year, not necessarily the best desirable area on this particular home. So obviously for both of these particular properties, like let's take the mortgage out of it. Let's not look at the complete equity. Let's just take the mortgage out of it, because typically on subject to properties, we're looking at cash on cash return. We're looking at how much cash we'll have to put into this particular property to get cash flow out, right? Both of them, I'm just gonna write on here, mortgage is $1,000 a month. Both of them, mortgage is $1,000 a month. So right here we got mortgage. All right, let's just put pity. And then rent. Pity and rent. Now rent plays a factor in either one of these, whether we're gonna do a owner finance or not. If we wanna keep the property for ourselves, obviously we gotta look at the cash flow, right? So this house, number one, ARV 200 grand, reinstatement 6 grand. That means they're 4 or 5 months behind. They gave you a call ahead of time as opposed to waiting. Then you got the rehab, which is 10K. You got appreciating area, pity, mortgage, monthly mortgage is 1,000, and then your rent in the area goes for about 1,500. All these things are going to stay the same. The only thing that changes is actually reinstatement amount, which is a big number, and then non-appreciating area, right? So that's what I want to look at when we're looking at both of these particular instances as far as what we're going to do with them. So this one right here is appreciating area. All of a sudden, appreciating and non-appreciation, these are things that's going to decide whether you're going to own or finance a property, or these are things that's going to decide whether you want to keep it and rent it and hold on and get the long-term equity play, depreciations, tax benefits, pay $75 just like Trump would, right? So you want to keep those things in mind when you're looking at it. But appreciating and unappreciating, that's exactly what I look for. If it's appreciating area, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be more of a rental for me, depending on how much money out. But for just to keep things in perspective, both of these rehabs are about the same. Only thing that's going to be different is the actual reinstatement amount. So this one is appreciating, right? And I know that if I buy this particular sub 2, I'm gonna make $500 a month cash flow, right? Both of these particular sub 2s are $500 a month cash flow. So I'm gonna look at this one and I'm gonna say, okay, I can make $500 a month cash flow. I'm gonna be all out of pocket $16,000 for this particular deal, right? Just keep matters simple. We're just gonna be out of pocket 16 grand. That's gonna be the reinstatement and the rehab, right? All that closed up, all that bottled up, we're gonna be out of pocket 16 grand and we'll make $500 a month for the next, however long we have it, right? Until the loan is paid off. The exact same thing for this one. We're gonna be out of pocket on this one, $25,000. So on this one, out of pocket, I'm just gonna put OP, 16K, out of pocket. For this one, it's gonna be 25K, right? Same cash flow, same monthly mortgage. The only thing difference is the reinstatement and the non-appreciating area. Everything is ideal and everything is the same. So since this is appreciating area and there's not much coming out of pocket, just 16 grand, essentially I'll have my money back in 3 years. Barring I get a good tenant in there that's gonna take care of the property, right? Obviously, if I get a bad tenant in there and they trash it up, obviously I'm going deep in the hole, or it's gonna take a little bit longer for me to get my particular money out of it. But it's still a good opportunity for me actually to make money, and essentially I get all my money out this particular deal in 3 years. For this one, for instance, we got 25 grand coming out of pocket for this particular deal. On this one, this will be ideal, especially in a non-appreciating area, to do an owner finance. So this one we'll rent. This one we'll do an owner finance. And what's causing us to make that decision? Ultimately, what it is that it's a lot of money out of pocket right here, right? So this is why it's very important to have the acquisition side of the business down, because when you're wholesaling and you're flipping properties, that's what's going to pay for some of these assets, right? So if you get a $30,000 assignment this month, right? You can put 16 into a property, get all your money back in 3 years. Essentially, that money, that property will be making money for you. This one right here, if you made $30,000 and you put 25 grand into that particular property, it's going to leave you in the bind, right? You're only going to have, essentially, you only made 5 grand this month, and that's probably going to go towards marketing. So with this one, I would say, don't take this one down. What we'll do is a owner finance wrap on this particular sub 2. So a wrap is what we take one mortgage, right? That's the mortgage we took over. Now all we're gonna do is wrap another mortgage on top of it. That's what we call wraps. It's owner finance, exact same thing, but we call it wraps when there's a pre-existing mortgage on it. A regular traditional owner finance is going to be more of the house is paid off. I'm just being the bank, allowing you to pay me over payments over 10, 15, 20, 30 years. This is going to be the exact same thing, right? Only difference is there's an underlying mortgage because we took the property sub 2. Now, this is the best part about this particular property. In sub 2, when you do owner finance, you take 10% down, right? Typically, you take 10%, 8%, depending on what shape the property is in. This property is a 200K ARV. It's getting up there as far as price points for owner finance property. Typically, people have 10 to 15 to 20 grand to put down on the property. If you're in a metropolitan area, this is probably going to be easier for you to actually find this particular buyer with 10% down. So let's go over here. Now we're looking at this with 25 grand out of pocket, right? And we owner finance this, find a buyer that put 10% down, which is 20 grand, right? We found a buyer that put 20% down. Essentially, we're only out of pocket 5K for this particular deal, which puts us in a darn good place, right? It puts us in a great place because now to make this $500 cash flow, it only costed us 5 grand, right? Same thing for this one. Say if you wanted to be an owner finance guy, you didn't want to do any rentals and you was tired of headaches dealing with the properties, right? On this particular property, what you would do, if you wanted to owner finance, you do the exact same thing, find a buyer with 10% down, 20 grand, and essentially you would make 4K. You would make 4K to own and finance it and cash flow the remaining 30 years, right? You can do the exact same thing. You can do a wraparound mortgage, or you can keep it as a rental. Typically, like I said, if there's little money out of pocket like this deal, I want to try to keep that as best as possible because I would rather have that on my asset sheet. Now that's still going to be on the asset sheet, but it's going to be in the note that you created. So you're not actually going to own that particular property. You're just going to control it, right? You'll be able to foreclose. You'll be able to pay the taxes. You'll be able to do everything you're supposed to do. But on this one right here, as far as house one, on this one, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting all the benefits you possibly can. And finding a reinstatement at 6 grand is very, very hard to do, right? A lot of sub-twos come from this perspective where they're already at foreclosure, they're trying to sell it, they don't have any other options. They've wasted time and time and time and brought up the bill to 15 grand, have hardly any equity. They can still cash flow, but now it's just going to be a whole heck of a lot more money to go into that particular deal. Whereas this one, it came to you early. We got multiple strategies. If we're low on funds, right? We find a buyer with 20%, we sell it for 200 grand, or we find a buyer for 16 just to make sure we're no money out of pocket, right? We find a buyer with 16 down, maybe can pay closing, and then all of a sudden we're out of pocket, no money for this particular deal. It's still a win-win situation. So this is what I wanted to talk about as far as owner finance, how you can create wealth from using the actual sub-2, not owner finance, but using the actual sub-2 method, how you can create wealth in your family, your life, and real estate without actually owning rental properties. I know a lot of people say rental, but essentially owner finance is the exact same thing as a rental. Only thing is this one, owner finance, you control. Rentals, you actually own, right? So this one builds up your net worth. This one would too, but only because you control it, so it's just a note. So essentially you don't own a house, you own a piece of paper, which is a promissory note. This one, you own the deed, right? You own the deed. You don't own the promissory note. The promissory note is owned by the bank because you're continuing to pay them. So this two totally different ways of cash flow, but ultimately they do the exact same thing, cash flow, $500 a month. And that's the way you want to look at it. Cash flow, because it rules, especially in this business. If you're not bringing in the cash flow, you're going to be in trouble. It's just a part of it. So with that being said, that's exactly what we got. If you need anything, definitely make sure you drop some comments below. If you have any questions about anything that we're doing, any questions about anything else, if you want me to analyze one of your deals, definitely let me know. Drop a link in the comments, or hit me up on Instagram. Send me over the information. Maybe we'll do a Zoom meeting and then kind of link up one-on-one, post some more content on YouTube, but evaluate your deal live. That way you'll be able to gain some knowledge from it and essentially get your next deal closed. All right, so with that being said, hey, you know what it is, keep winning.